Hello, and welcome back to Start Adventuring, a channel dedicated to empowering new role players to break down their barriers and just start adventuring. I'm Ben.
And I'm Baxter. And in this video, Ben and I will be going over our 3 lessons that we learned from running the 7th chapter of the Candlekeep Mysteries Book of Cylinders. I know I had a really good time playing as Bosun Bok. I got a lot of fun nat 20s in there. It was a really good adventure for me.
The first big lesson that I would offer for this module is that you should just throw the players right into the action.
Yeah.
I think this adventure has great bones on it. It's got all the makings of a really good swashbuckling standard fantasy adventure. I mean, obviously, our particular playthrough of it was influenced by the fact that Baxter was playing a pirate character. But I really do think that handling the call to action as kind of exposition or in the session 0 really helps, especially if you're running this as a one-shot, and ultra especially if you're running it as a short one-shot, the way that Baxter and I have been. I mean, Baxter, you didn't feel in any way like you didn't have agency because it was presupposed that you had accepted this job, right?
No, not at all. I think that frankly, it felt almost less scripted or forced in that way, because sometimes you and I discussed this a couple different times when we would do the Candlekeep tie-in at the beginning, we felt like it just kind of had to be there. It wasn't really something we felt like gave any weight to the story or anything like that. I mean, we tried the best we did, but ultimately,
and the Book of Cylinders still did figure into it the way that we ran it. It's just that the location and spending time at Candlekeep was kind of hand-waved away.
Right, and I think it's because for this one, it felt just as potent, if not more so in some ways, to have Candlekeep be more contextual. Oh, I got this book that started this entire thing, or that's going to help us from Candlekeep, opposed to it being like, well, you need to step foot inside of Candlekeep, because I think ultimately that's just going to be super repetitive for you guys viewing.
And at the end of the day, like, it helps the pacing, right?
Because yes.
If you have to spend too much time standing around, I mean, as written, the Candlekeep tie-in involves an avowed coming up and giving you the book and kind of giving you some information. But if you have to spend time with the players learning all of that and trying to decide if they even want to do it, if you're trying to run this in one session, you want to get to the good parts, right? But if you're fitting this into a larger campaign where your players are at Candlekeep and maybe they have time to discover this, in that case, for sure, tie it in the way that it's written in the book. But otherwise, I think just getting them right into the adventure is the right call for this one.
Agreed. Our second lesson is that you should feel free to change the motivations and even like the kind of alliance or allegiance between the different factions at play. Namely, in this module, the Gripply and the Yuan-Ti. Maybe the Gripply are worried because their friends, the Yuan-Ti, came into their village seemingly kind of erratic and crazy, so they left, and now they want to send you over there to help them.
Yeah, that's right. So that's one specific example of the idea of, like, it doesn't have to be that the Yuan-Ti are this evil snake race that came in to attack the good frog race and eat all their eggs and torture them. If that's not something that'll play well at your table, or if you're like many people, including us, who doesn't like the idea of evil-aligned races in D&D, or just, like, racially contained factions, maybe the tribe, as with our version of it, maybe the tribe is in some way being influenced by supernatural forces from the temple that's in the module. Or maybe they're all Gripply. Maybe you skip the Yuan-Ti entirely and there's 2 separate factions of Gripply that are fighting for some economic reason or something. It to me personally, I didn't want to role play the snake race eating the Gripply eggs and, you know, torturing them that way. I just, that level of peril didn't appeal to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just think that it's kind of reductive, right? With these kind of anthropomorphized animal races that you see a lot in fantasy tropes. I really don't like this idea that they're just like kind of, larger, slightly more intelligent versions of their animal counterpart. You know what I mean? Like, I get that some people would be like, well, biologically, that is what would happen. And it's like, well, maybe, but also in this fantasy world where we get to control and develop and create our own thing, maybe we can just have it be that they are just as you and I, no different than you and I. And I think that it also just takes away from the element of that, the development of that race to some degree. If they kind of stop at, or, start and end at, I'm a snake person, that's kind of one-dimensional in a lot of ways.
And not for nothing, there was some controversy from the author of this adventure with regard to how it was edited, and I believe that the controversy did have something to do with the treatment of these races in the adventure. So, as far as I'm concerned, that's a license to do whatever you want with it, because I don't even think that the author's intention necessarily fully represented by what's in the module.
Yeah, and not just that. I think, frankly, at any point in time, you have a full license to do whatever you want. These modules are reference books. They are guides. They are not gospel. You do not have to run it exactly as it's written. And that's kind of not just a lesson.
As Baxter and I always say, there's no canon except for what's canon at the table.
Right, exactly.
And the last lesson that we took from adapting this module is have fun with the travel that's involved in it. Right. Not just the trip up from Candlekeep, but also traveling between the villages, from the trade posts to the village, or from the village to the temple. There's a lot of room for fun stuff in there that I wish, honestly, in my version of it, I had done more with. I had to cut out one encounter that happens between the trade post and the village. The crab maze. I did talk to Baxter a little bit offline about that, but I had to cut that for time. But I think most people running a standard length session would be able to throw in an encounter or two of some kind walking through the marshland or headed upriver to the temple. And it's just fun to be on a boat, in my opinion, at least. I just love pirate movies and I love pirate tropes. So traveling on a big ship on an adventure is just a fun thing that I think you could do a lot with in your running of this adventure.
Yeah, I totally agree. And flavoring it to the character or characters is also a great way to do it. But if it's not a boat and it's overland, like Ben had said, I think that the best thing you can do is some kind of encounter, whether it's the one that's in the module or if you want to do, a different one that you've designed. You can really have fun with it. And I think that's something that a lot of, I think, old school D&D focuses on in terms of when you're traversing land, is it's more like the harshness of it or the difficulty of the terrain or if you have enough rations or something like that. And for some people at the table, that's what they like to do and that's how they like to play. And if that's how you play, awesome. The way that I like to play, or that I think that a lot of new players are preferring to play, is they want to have it almost like a cinematic, right? Like a movie experience. When the journey is just as important as the destination and what happens at the destination. And oftentimes the journey is where a lot of the unpredictable things happen, right? And that's why you'll see in D&D, they always have the encounter tables, random encounter tables and stuff like that. And if you're not comfortable setting up your own encounters, that can be a totally fun way to do it, even for the DM, right? They don't know what's
it's
happen.
Also, it's a good opportunity for a role play encounter too, because you're traveling with Miter Jans, or maybe you recruit a Gripply to go up to the village with you, and then it's an opportunity to give some lore or to develop the character more during that travel time. I believe, for example, when we ran it, I used it to introduce the Book of Cylinders and, talk about the lore around what was happening in the adventure. You don't have to do it that way, but it also doesn't have to be a combat encounter or a, wild animal encounter or something like that. It's an opportunity to flesh out the local area and what's going on there, Thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed these lessons and takeaways, please like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'd love to have you be part of the Start Adventuring community. These are by no means an exhaustive list of tips for running this adventure, but it is, 3 kind of big ideas that we had, taking it away after running it as a one-on-one, one-shot. And if you've got thoughts about the adventure, or if you're going to run it and you have questions for us or for anybody in the community, anybody who might be reading it, let us know in the comments down below. We'd love to talk more about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited for the upcoming videos that we're going to be taking out, like my new homebrew series that's coming out, for the new TikTok Q&A situation to come out. We're really starting to kind of ramp up some production and getting excited about what we're doing here. So if you guys would like to support us any further, we do have a Patreon, the link to which will be in the description box below, as well as any of the pertinent information in that bottom right-hand blue box. But I think for now, we're going to get on out of here. Ben, do you have anything else for us?
Just if you feel so inclined, there will be eventually highlights for this adventure, and the Session 0 and live play are live at the time of this posting. So if you want to see what it was like when we ran it, or how we set it up, those are also up on the channel. And feel free to check out any of the other Candlekeep live plays or content that we have out on the channel. Thanks for checking this video out, and until next time, I'm Ben.
And I'm Baxter. And remember, start adventuring.
Just start adventuring.